Hello everyone, I'm Redshirt Down, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to look through the black creature and non-creature spells and see what we can find to add to the cube. We've already got a couple of ideas for what we want this cube to be doing, so anything that has artifact or enchantment synergies is a win, along with general things that black wants to be doing. Some small aggressive creatures, maybe a couple late game big hitters, kill spells, and the like. Okay, let's tear into it by starting with the creatures. Order of Midnight. This could be a good card to show up in those aggressive decks, and if they draw it late, can help them rebuy another threat. Let's throw it into the cube. I'm sure it'll make the list. This Sangrophage, it's a classic in the genre. It's overstated, but you're paying life for the ability. As long as you're in a black aggro deck, you don't care about that. This card's not bad. Another pretty decent aggressive body. It may not turn out to be anything, but it's worth a second look. Here's our look at our first Aristocrat card. It gives you a bonus when you sacrifice an artifact or enchantment. I think that needing to pay 2 mana to activate this ability is just too much, but we'll add it into the cube. Part of what I'm learning as I make this series is that the floor on creatures is a lot higher than I first thought. So I'm not pulling out as many creatures as I did during the white and the blue episodes. Creatures are going to need to be more than just good vanilla stats for me to make the first cut. Callous Sellsword, one of the banes of Standard the last time I booted up Arena. It's a bit understated, but the fling could matter, plus it gives drafters something to aspire towards. Oh, here's another cool card. Spellscorn Coven. This is much better than Sapphire Dragon, because there's no restriction on the counterspell half. Plus, there have been a lot of fairies that we've seen so far, which might matter in this environment. Smitten Swordmaster is a body at 2 that I don't necessarily like, but if we have that Knight synergy, we're going to need both the density and payoffs, and this can be both. Viscera Seer. This is more like it. This is going to be your Aristocrat card you're always happy to see. The Scry is a minimal ability, but the fact that it's free is really the payoff here. Here's another Aristocrat, this time giving you that free sack outlet to pump this creature. Twisted Abomination. This is not nearly as good as the Trolls of Khazad Dûn, but I'm really not expecting to see them in this environment. Still, being able to cycle this for a land early in the game, and then having a body later on, could mean something. Serrated Scorpion. This is one of those hidden gems in an Aristocrat deck, because you need creatures that you don't mind sacrificing. Not only that, but since we already know that we're running Abiding Grace, this could be a really cool way to drain your opponent while chump blocking their big threat. Whisper, Blood Liturgist. Another one of those sacrifice things, but this time you get value out of your graveyard. It does have to tap to use this ability, and it's quite understated. But again, we'll throw it in for now and see how we feel about it when we're editing. Haunt of the Dead Marshes might be one of the few recursive creatures that we're going to find in black. Generally, these are a staple in a black environment. I don't think we're going to get any of the fun aggressive ones, but we still would like the ability to constantly recur some creatures. I've already pulled out a bunch of cards for this discard theme. Cards that have madness are cards that let you discard cards for an effect. Generally, you'll find these type of cards playing in black and red, but we're going to add the black ones in now, and if we end up with a decent selection in red as well, that could be what our black-red aggressive deck wants to do. Archfiend of Sorrows. Here's one of the few board wipes we're going to find. Sure, it only does a small board wipe, and it's on a really big body, but you know, we'll take what we can get. Clattering Augur. This is more like it. It's not really an aggressive threat, especially being 2 mana, but it gives you a little bit of value when it enters the battlefield, and it doesn't cost really anything else to get it back. It looks like vampires might be becoming a theme too. Gibbering Barricade. This is another one of those Dominaria United walls that doesn't really pay off for having walls as an archetype, but it's not a bad body, and it has a relevant ability. Plus, again, we need a density of walls in order to make this work. Ooh, Sengir Connoisseur. I remember this being a secret house in DMU draft as well. Blight Pile. Here's another one of those Dominaria United defenders that care about your defenders. This one has great stats, plus it drains your opponent on the tap. This could be the strongest defender in the pile. I sure hope we can sneak this archetype into the environment, because cards like this and the blue mill wall really change the axis the game is played on. Golem Patient Plotter would be an excellent card for this environment. I don't know if I want to interact with the ring mechanic at all. I'm gonna throw it in the pile. This is one of those hard decisions you're gonna have to make as a curator, because adding the ring tempting mechanic adds another whole layer of complexity that I would otherwise like to avoid in this environment. As long as we're going to add this card in, we may as well add its showcase frame. Phylactery Lich. We discovered this card when we were sorting through the big bulk box. I imagine getting a Phylactery artifact won't be too difficult in this cube. Zombie Scavengers is a twofer for mechanics we want to avoid. It's got Regenerate, which is confusing to even those of us that have been in this game a long while. They've changed it so many times, I don't even know what its full Oracle text is these days. But it also needs you to keep your graveyard in order. This is one of the very few cards in Magic that cares about the order of cards in your graveyard, and the second you add that into your cube, you would need to tell every drafter not to shuffle their graveyards, just in case they have a Zombie Scavengers. Ravenous Rats is a classic in the genre. They've done many riffs on this in the years since this was first printed, and I'm hoping we get one of them because I like their abilities better. Vampire Aristocrat. Cards like this are why the archetype is named that. I'm gonna add it in for now, but I can completely see that we might not have that as a card. Reassembling Skeleton. This is exactly the kind of card we need to keep recurring. It only costs 2 to bring back from the graveyard, and there are no special strings attached. Black Knight. We've already removed the white counterpart to this card. I think that protection from white is still dangerous, but I think it's less dangerous than protection black. We're going to add it in for now, but this could also be a very easy cut if we have enough 2-drops. Diregraph Ghoul. This is actually a surprisingly good card to find. It's a 1-mana 2/2. Doesn't get much more aggressive than that. Dread Malkin. This is another one of those aristocrat cards. It just costs a ton, but it does have some upside. Plus, I have a feeling we're going to have a little bit of a problem with 1-drops. Okay, last section of cards from the creature section. Corrupt Court Official is one of those improvements on the rat just by being a human. Ecstatic Awakener. This is another one of those cool cards that does a really unique ability. It's a 1-drop and a human, but assuming you have 3 mana to pump into it, it becomes a vanilla 4/4. Clay Revenant. Another one of those cards that does a bunch of different things. It's a 1-mana card, it can come back from the grave, and it's an artifact. And I would rather have the foil one. Another one of these returning skeletons. This time it's a 1-mana 1/1 that can come back for 3 mana. See, this is a better wall to add in. It's a 4/4 defender for 5, which is terrible, but it's got an activated ability that could matter. Okay, so that's going to finish up our black creature section. I was afraid about halfway through that we weren't going to have enough aggressive creatures, so we may have to reach back into the tank. But considering that this is our creature stack, I'm feeling pretty confident. Much like with the blue and white colors, we're just looking for some very strong support. In this case, for black, what we're really looking for are things to destroy other people's creatures, and we're looking for things to make people discard their cards. Generic Mind Twist is probably good enough in this environment. Probably a Duress as well, I would expect. Any kind of Reanimate, we're not going to get the best ones, but even like an Unearth would be really nice. Cut Down. I did spot this when we were opening the box, and this is amazing. This is a 1-mana kill spell that I would expect would kill even most 3-drops in this cube. As long as we're going to have the Ring Tempts You as a mechanic, we're going to have this card be in here. It's not a bad kill spell, but it will give you value out of your graveyard. This is an easy in now, and an easy out later. I feel pretty happy with the instance that I found. As expected, most of what they're going to be doing are kill spells. And on to the sorceries we go. This is not a bad Army in a Can card I didn't expect to see in black. And this is a very similar card, albeit with a different mechanic stapled onto it. It's a tough call, but I think right now I'll leave both in. If we're able to build a Rakdos Madness deck, Geese's Bidding will be the card we're looking for. If not, then the value gained by the flashback ability pushes Moan of the Unhallowed over the edge. Here we go. This is that Duress I was talking about. It's printed so often I didn't expect we wouldn't see one. Read the Bones. I hope we get some of the more upgraded versions of this, but I love it. Scry 2, draw 2, lose 2. It's just too clean. Hey look, here's another one of those small board wipes. Arms of Adar, for 4 mana, makes your opponent's stuff just slightly smaller. I didn't expect that we would see a board wipe, so I'm happy to see it, even if it's only a partial. Feed the Swarm. This is the kind of black removal that I was talking about. Urborg Repossession gives you a single regrow for 1 single black mana. But if you're splashing green, you can also get another target permanent, plus it has a little life gain. This is what I was talking about when it comes to Reanimate. Very often they'll print basically unplayable Reanimates, ones that you would never find in a normal cube. It'll get you there. Here's a Mind Twist with Upside. This will be an easy include, even if we don't have full vampire synergies. Here's another small board wipe from black. This will basically only take out tokens, and it has the ring mechanic. Speaking of, a removal spell with the ring mechanic. Bone Shards. This follows a very long tradition of Wizards giving you the ability to kill something for very cheap, but at the cost of an additional resource. I think they got it right with Modern Horizons 2. I'm not sure if black burn's on the menu for this cube, but this could be a fun way to help black finish the game. We already have a better version in the cube, but we'll add the second one in for now. Spark Harvest is another one of those cards that I think almost gets there. It's the 1 mana remove anything spell, but you have to sacrifice a creature or you're paying 5 mana for a very bad removal. Dread Return. I absolutely did not expect to see this. This is pretty much the current going rate that Wizards will even think about printing reanimation spells at these days. And not only that, it's got a free flashback cost. Last but certainly not least is Ego Drain. We may just have the fairy density that this could be a better Thoughtseize. Assuming it's not, you're still just giving up an extra card to remove your opponent's most threatening. Absolutely slam dunk. So that selection really surprised me. There are some really strong spells that we found right out of this bulk box. More powerful pieces for our budget environment. Maya's Grasp. This could be an okay removal spell if we're able to recur it. Hopeless Nightmare. Incredible find. This card's worth like $1 or $2 right now because one of the main standard decks is a way to perpetually bounce this back to your hand. We're probably not going to have that ability, but even still, it's not a bad discard spell. Dead Weight. The better Maya's Grasp. It does a little bit less, but it costs half as much mana. As expected, there wasn't a whole lot in the enchantment section I'm happy to see. We only picked 3 cards, and of the 3 of them, I can imagine that the final list only includes this Hopeless Nightmare. Transmogrant Altar is a very cool callback to, like, Ashnod's Altar. However, it's quite a bit worse. That said, this environment's not going to have access to those better ones. Let's give it a shot. As expected, the only thing we even pulled out was the budget Ashnod's Altar. So there you have it. Black is looking pretty strong. Now it's time for me to upload all of these cards onto Cube Cobra. I'm trying something new this week and finishing the black section in the next video, releasing this Friday. Let me know if you prefer it that way, or if you'd like me to go back to having them all in one video. Plus, don't forget about today's question. If you were building this cube, would you introduce the ring mechanic? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.